Okay, we're going to have a debate about the contradictions in the Bible versus the contradictions in the Quran.
Okay.
You understand we're going to be talking about contradictions in the Quran, right?
What contradictions?
I'll show you some.
Okay, I'll show you some.
Yeah. Right, you're going to have to talk up for all of these people, bro. So where am I going first?
So in Matthew 27:5.
Matthew 27:5.
It says, then he
talk to these people, bro.
Okay, so it says, then he threw down the pieces of silver in the temple and departed, and went and hanged himself. So he committed suicide by hanging himself, yeah? And then in Acts 1:18, it says, now this man purchased a field of iniquity.
Wait, where am I going? Acts
1:18.
Right, bear with us. Right?
Yeah.
Bear with us. Acts 1:18. Acts 1, sorry. Go on, read aloud.
So it says, now this man purchased a field with the wages of iniquity, and falling headlong, he burst open in the middle and his entrails gushed out. So did he commit suicide by hanging, or did he fall headlong and his entrails gushed out? They're two contradictory verses, no?
Right, ladies and gentlemen. The brother tries to say that this is a contradiction. I'm not your microphone man, you put it on, I'm not putting it on for you. So, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm fine.
Chop, chop. Right, so ladies and gentlemen, you all heard him say that there's a contradiction. Did you hear him read the two verses? Good, right? So let's read carefully the two verses again. Matthew 27:5. And he threw the pieces of silver into the temple sanctuary and departed, and he went away and he hanged himself. Did it say he died? He just hanged himself. Is it possible to hang yourself without dying? Thank you very much. No, ladies and gentlemen. It says that he went away and hanged himself. Did it say where he went away and hanged himself? No, it didn't. So now read Acts chapter 1, what verse?
18.
Verse 18, where it says, now this man acquired a field with the price of his wickedness, and falling headlong, he burst open in the middle, and all his intestines gushed out. So, if he went away and bought a field, ladies and gentlemen, and then he hanged himself, and the rope snaps, and he falls head first, and his guts burst out, is there a contradiction? No, there is not a contradiction. No, wait 1 second.
Okay.
We're going to do a debate.
Yeah.
Right. There is no contradiction between these two verses because it's known as literary telescoping. Literary telescoping is when you focus in on some details and you ignore other details. Let me give you an example of that, and then I'll let him reply to my argument, and then I'll show him a contradiction in the Quran. If all of you right now went away and wrote out a detailed account of what you have seen in the last 5 minutes, and you came back, you would bring back different accounts focusing on different details. Do you recognize that? Right. Well, that's what's happening in Luke and in Matthew and in the different Gospels. They're focusing on different details. It is not a contradiction. Go on, your reply.
It doesn't make any sense though, because if you hang yourself and you commit suicide, and if he's falling headlong and his entrails are gushed out, that means it's two contradictory.
Yeah, but it didn't say that it didn't say when his entrails gushed out, that's when his death was.
Okay,
even when he hung himself, you could say he died. Yeah. And then, with the brittleness of the tree thing, that could have caused his body, could have caused his body to hit.
Yeah, but you're doing hypothetical. if you hang yourself, you're gonna most likely die. If your entrails gush out and your guts come out, how are you not dead?
Right, guys, I mean, everyone else gets the point. But now let's see if he can defend a contradiction in the Quran. So you're going to need your Quran. So turn to Surah 7. Surah 7, Ayah 109. Surah 7, 109. After this, yeah, certainly. Right, Surah 7, 109. Right? Yeah. Yeah, you read it when you're ready.
Okay.
Read it loud and clear.
This one right here, yeah?
Surah 7, 109.
This one?
Yes.
Okay. Said the eminent among the people of Pharaoh, indeed, this is a learned magician.
Right. Who was speaking? Who was speaking? No. Surah 7, listen, everybody listen. Surah 7, Ayah 109, said the chiefs of the people to Pharaoh. This is indeed a sorcerer well versed. Who was speaking? Pharaoh or his chiefs? The chiefs were speaking. Right? Do you agree? The chiefs were speaking. Now turn to Surah 26, Ayah 33.
Surah 26,
33.
By the breath of his mouth, there you have the word, by the word of the Lord, Jesus Christ was in the
this one right here, yeah?
Surah 26, 33.
34, Bob.
Yeah, 34, sorry, my apologies, 34. Yeah, go on, 34.
And he drew out his hand.
34. Surah 26, 34. Thank you for the correction.
Okay, this one, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Pharaoh said to the eminent ones around him, indeed, this is a learned magician.
Right, so who's speaking there?
Pharaoh.
Who was speaking in the other verse?
Pharaoh as well, no?
No. Read it carefully.
Okay.
Read it carefully. Let's do it again. Because the brother hasn't picked up on the contradiction. Put your hand up if you picked up on the contradiction.
The chief.
Right? In Surah 7, Ayah 109, the chief priests say to Pharaoh, this is not but a learned magician. But in Surah 26:34, Pharaoh says the same words to the chief priests. So who said what to who?
Why can't they both say it to the priests?
But that's not what the either verse says, is it?
The chief said it.
But that's not what either verse says, is it? Now, do you see what he's doing? He's reconciling the two verses by saying something that neither verse said. He's saying, well, they said it to one another. But when you read the story in context, what you realize is exactly the same moment in the story, and the speaker changes, but the words do not. What's actually happened is Muhammad told the story twice, and he didn't remember the order in which he told the story. But he says, well, they could say it to one another at precisely the same time, at precisely the same moment, even though there's no verse in the Quran that says that. Now, but he says that when I use a similar kind of defense in the Bible, it's not allowed. That you have to insist on backing one verse or the other. You can't reconcile them. But when I showed exactly the same type of contradiction in the Quran, he used exactly the same kind of defense that I did. But when he uses it for the Quran, it's good. When I use it for the Bible, it's bad. That's called a double standard. And either he accepts there's a contradiction in the Bible, in the Quran, or he accepts that there's no contradiction in the Bible. Which do you want to do?
Give him a chance, give him a chance, give him a chance.
I'll show you a contradiction right now. Yeah?
Go on, go on.
No, deal with the one we're talking about.
Right now.
Deal with the one that we're talking
I've
about.
already dealt with it.
No, you haven't. No, yeah. Deal with what I've just said.
They're two separate. He hanged himself or he fell headlong.
Deal with what I've just said.
Yeah, what have you just said?
You see, he wasn't even listening.
I was listening.
He wasn't even listening.
Say it again.
Because the Dawagandis come here with their script, and apart from their script, they're incapable of thinking. Let's say this again, very slowly.
Okay. Slowly.
The brother showed a verse, two verses in the Bible, that can easily be reconciled. One verse says that Judas hanged himself, but it didn't say he died, and it didn't say where he died. The other verse says that he hanged himself, the other verse says that he fell head first in a field. You can hang yourself without dying, fall head first and die in a field. Those two things can be reconciled. The Quran has two verses. One verse says that the chief said to the Pharaoh, this is a magician. The other verse says that the Pharaoh said to the chief priests, this is a physician, a magician. These are contradictory verses. Was it Pharaoh or the chief priest? Was it Pharaoh or his chiefs? He says, well, you just reconcile it. You just say they both spoke. So he's using the defense that I use for Acts. But when I use it for Acts, he says no. When he uses it for the Quran, he says yes. You asked me to re-articulate my argument because you were not listening. I have now restated my argument as per your request. Now deal with my argument.
Deal it.
Thank you. No contradiction in the Bible.
No contradiction. We'll see about that.
Well done.
Coming to the word. Again, I leave the word.
Okay, so there's one right here.
Go on, where am I going?
So 2 Kings 8:26.
8:26. It's about the age of a king. Yeah, you read both verses.
So 2 Kings.
Put your hand up if you can't hear him.
2 Kings 8:26. Okay. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Athaliah, the granddaughter of Omri, the king of Israel. Okay. How old was Ahaziah? 22, right?
22.
22 years old. And he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. Now if we go to 2 Chronicles 22:2, it says Ahaziah
To my father and your father. To my God and your God.
his mother's name was Athaliah, the granddaughter of Omri. So my question is, was Ahaziah 22 or 42?
Okay.
Two contradictory verses. Okay, 22 and 42.
Right. So you all heard the contradiction stated. Was he 22 or 42? Ladies and gentlemen, this is where you've got to get deep into your knowledge of the Christian faith. The contradiction that he's talking about exists in certain translations. They're particularly connected to the old translations in English.
So it's been mistranslated.
No, don't interrupt. Did I interrupt you?
Okay.
If you interrupt me again, I will interrupt you at leisure.
Okay, cool.
So don't interrupt.
Okay, carry on.
This is no caliphate, ladies and gentlemen, and no one here is his dhimmi. Now,
Neither is he.
right, exactly, I'm not. Now, ladies and gentlemen, so in our oldest versions and translations from the King James, they were based upon only a small number of Hebrew texts and only a small number of the available texts that we have today. And indeed, there is a scribal error in some late manuscripts of the Hebrew that then appears in the English as he has quoted 22 or 42. However, what he doesn't know, and what probably most of you don't know, is that since those early translations, we've discovered the Bible in more ancient scripts, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, and in other languages, including Ethiopic, Syriac, Coptic, Serbian, and a number of other translations, including Aramaic, and a whole number of Greek versions in which the scribal error does not appear. And in both verses, the age is 22. The error is connected to a certain line of Hebrew manuscripts, not all Hebrew manuscripts, and it doesn't exist outside of the Hebrew manuscripts except for in translations that used those corrupted versions. The difference between 42 and 22 is a single dash. A single dash, ladies and gentlemen. That's the difference. And there was a mistake that appears, and he's quietly articulated it. However, most scholars of the Bible just dismiss this as a scribal error, because other translations made independently and other documents made independently don't copy that error. They have 22 in both verses. And so it is simply due to a scribal error. But it demonstrates that the Christians were conservative in maintaining the manuscripts that they received, even in preserving errors. Even in preserving errors when those errors became apparent. And that answers the contradiction. It's due to a scribal error. It changes only the age, doesn't change the message, the doctrines, or the story in any way or any aspect of the Christian faith, and it is counter-witnessed by other manuscripts from around the world that give 22 in both passages. Reply to that, and then we'll go on to a contradiction in the Quran.
So you've obviously admitted it. It's a clear scribal error, as you said. So we'll move on. It's an error in the Bible.
No, we're going to go on to the Quran.
It's an error in the Bible.
We're going to go on to the Quran.
Let's go to the next.
Yeah, let's go to the Quran. Let's look at some scribal errors in the Quran.
He's not happy. He's angry that I've got that.
Now, he thinks I'm angry because I'm projecting my voice. How wrong he is.
You said the word error 5 times.
It's a scribal error, yes.
Yeah.
So what do we do about the scribal errors in the Quran? Let's look at some scribal errors in the Quran. So, for example, this is a figure taken by Dr. Brubaker from the Museum of Islamic Art, showing a multiple post-production correction in a 7th century Quran. You can see lines have been added above the manuscript. You can all see that? The lines are added by a later hand. Someone comes along and adds words to the Quran that he finds. In other words, there is a scribal error in the Quran that someone later is coming and correcting. Exactly what I just said about the Bible. Explain to me why someone is revising an Arabic Quran and writing words into the Quran that weren't there when he read it.
Let me just see it.
Yeah, there you go.
Multiple post-production corrections. What's this book called?
Corrections in early Quran manuscripts.
1st and 7th century Quran. So you're saying that because the lines they're not straight.
No, these were added by a later hand. This is a different pen. Someone else has added these words there.
It looks like
to this passage.
It looks like the same.
It blatantly doesn't. Look, bro. Look. This is the line, and then the line continues there, and then and someone, just like we do in English, has written another statement above it there, just like you do in English.
But what if that's another line?
It's not another line. You can tell it doesn't because it doesn't start there. It's starting, bro. You don't know what you're talking about. It isn't another line.
But why
it's a correction.
How do you know it's a correction?
It is a correction. It's being added. Listen. Let me give you an example of a correction to the Quran manuscript. So the one that I'm talking about is connected to the Codex Petropolitanus. Okay? And in that Petropolitanus, there is a correction found in the manuscript in the Museum of Islamic Art in Doha, where the words are inserted wa amilu al-salahati thumma taqwa wa amanu. The main insertion has been made above the main line of the text, except possibly for the first position of wa amilu, about which I have some questions because of the way it is written. This insertion looks to be the work of the original scribe and was probably made soon after the first writing. So he is correcting his own manuscript. If people are correcting the manuscripts of the Quran, how sure can you be that words of the Quran have not been lost or changed?
That's a good question, Bob.
Okay, let me just 1 second.
This is from a book I recommend that you all get.
What's the name?
It's a study by Dr. Daniel Allen Brubaker called Corrections of Early Quranic Manuscripts, in which he documents multiple corrections to the text, just like the one we talked about in the Bible. So deal with it.
The Quran's been changed.
I'll do my research.
The Quran's been changed.
I'll do my research.
Make Dr. Daniel Brubaker rich and go buy this book. And Dr. Daniel Brubaker, you're me.
Yeah, some royalty.
So go on, deal with that.
No. I'm gonna do my. Listen, I haven't discovered that before.
He's never discovered it before.
I'm gonna do my research
give him a bit
and
of
come
benefit
back
of the
and
doubt.
genuinely answer it. I've never seen that before. You showed me a random book with random writing. How am I supposed to know what it's meaning?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? How do I know you're not lying? What if that's just another line inside? Like, how am I?
So even if you give me the truth, you wouldn't
Right.
reject it anyway.
This is, what's your name, bro?
Omar, O-M-A-R.
This is how much I love Omar. This is my copy of the book. It now belongs to him. There you go.
Sure?
Yes. There you go. That's yours. You said you wanted to research
I'll
it.
research.
Go away and research it and recognize that your attacks on the Bible are misplaced and your certainty that the Quran has never been changed is also misplaced. Do you want to go another round? Do you want to bring out another error, another contradiction?
I mean, I've already got one contradiction down that you said was a mistranslation, so...
No,
You can go again.
no, you didn't get it. The fact of the matter is the problem of textual variance exists inside Quranic manuscripts.
And does it exist inside the Bible?
Yes.
Okay, to the
so
Bible.
your Quran is like our human Bible.
That's the problem.
So what does that say about the Quran? If I have successfully managed to compare your divinely protected, divinely inspired book to what you think is a corrupted man-made book, what does that say about your Quran? Because you're working to a false assumption, Omar. You think that we Christians believe about our Bible what you believe about your Quran, and we don't. Textual variants in the biblical manuscripts are no threat to the Christian belief. Let me ask you this question, going back to your example. He showed you the contradiction, which I've explained, between the ages 22 or 42. Does that change the fact that Jesus Christ rose from the dead for the Christian?
Okay.
Answer that question.
Let me answer the question.
Yeah, that question.
Okay. What it shows is this. The Bible was sent by God. If there are errors in the Bible, it must have been mistranslated. Therefore, it's not the perfect book. Therefore, it wasn't sent by God and corrupted.
Can I reply?
Yeah, you can
Right.
reply.
Firstly, he's just chucked Islam under the bus. false. Because the Quran says that the Injil was sent by God. And if the Injil is corrupted, then that means it wasn't sent by God. And if it wasn't sent by God, the Quran is wrong for saying it was sent by God. So the Quran is in error and the Quran is not from God. Literally, his desire to attack the Bible has chucked his own book under the bus. But notice he didn't answer my question. My question was, what does the age of this king, how does the difference in the age of this king affect the Christians' belief in the resurrection of Jesus Christ? I've given him one chance, he didn't answer it. He now has a second chance to answer that question. Listen carefully to see if he answers that question. I'll say it again. The contradiction that you showed, even though I have explained it, even though I have shown you have the same problems in your Quran, how does that contradiction, in quote marks, affect my belief in the resurrection of Jesus Christ?
So it doesn't affect his belief in Jesus Christ, but it still shows that the Bible has been corrupted. That's the answer to the question.
Right, so let me reply to that. Thank you for admitting that it does not affect our belief in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. That is the first intelligent argument that this brother has made in this debate.
Not the textual variants.
No, now lady, you didn't even know they were textual variants until I told you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the fact of the matter is, what Omar doesn't understand, and what all of the Muslims don't understand, is that our faith as Christians is not dependent upon textual perfection. The faith of the Christians is based upon the resurrection of Jesus. And as he has admitted, his contradiction in no way affects that belief. But the textual variants in the Quran, where the Hafs version of the Quran says that the prophets fought in the way of Allah, and the Warsh version of the Quran, which say that the prophets died in the way of Allah, is a contradiction that proves that the Quran has not been preserved by his words. And by his words, he has hanged his Quran.
The Quran says it can't have any contradictions. If it has, then you know that it's not from Allah.
It's all right, let him respond. Respond to what I said.
Okay, the first thing about the Injil.
Yeah, respond to that.
Okay, so about the Injil, right? He's saying the Bible was the Injil. We don't believe that. We believe the Injil was sent to Jesus Christ, but it was corrupted. So what you have in the Bible is not the Injil that we're talking about. It's the same with the Torah as well, okay? The Torah that we believe in, that Allah sent Moses, has been corrupted. So it's not the same Torah that we see today. It's the same with the Injil and the Bible. The Bible that you have today, we believe, and as shown, he believes, has been corrupted. The Injil that was sent to Jesus Christ at his time wasn't corrupted, but it was corrupted over time. So that's the answer to the question. The Bible that you have today is not the Injil that we're talking about in the Quran. The same with the Torah.
Right.
And it says the Injil as well, not the...
Okay. So let me just find you something in the Quran. Bear with us 1 second. Right, here's an example of a textual variant inside the Quran. Just another example of the same, and then I want to correct him on the Injil. In Surah 28, verse 48, the Hafs version of the Quran uses the word sirani, but the Warsh version of the Quran uses the word sahirani. Now, sahirani means two magicians, which makes the verse read, but when the truth came to them from us, they said, why was he not given like that which was given to Moses? Did they not disbelieve in that which was given to Moses before? They said, two magicians supporting each other, and indeed we are in both disbelievers. So one version of the Quran says two magicians. However, in the Hafs version of the Quran, they use the word sirani, which means two works of magic. Two works of magic. Now that means that the verse reads like this. But when the truth came to them from us, they said, why was he not given like that which was given to Moses? Did they not disbelieve in that which was given to Moses before? They said, two works of magic supporting each other, and indeed we in both disbelieve. So, was there two magicians working one work of magic, two magicians working one work of magic each, or one magician working two works of magic? Because depending on which Quran you read, you get a different answer. So which one is it? That's a textual variant inside the Quran. But to answer his comments on the Injil, and then I'll let you reply. He said that the Injil was corrupted. Wait 1 second. He said that the Injil was corrupted. The Injil means good news. The good news that Christians preach is that Jesus Christ is risen from the dead and has conquered the dead, conquered death. Put your hand up if you're a Christian and you recognize that truth. Notice that was being witnessed to before any gospel was written. But can you find that message in the gospel? Yes, of course you can. And so if you can, the good news has not been corrupted. But notice what he said earlier. He said that if a book has been changed, it's not from God. Then he said the Injil was sent from God. Then he said the Injil was corrupted. So the Quran contradicts itself. Was the Injil sent from God or not? Let me ask him this question. Show me one verse in the Quran, just one, where it says clearly that the Injil was corrupted. Where it says the Injil was corrupted. Show me that verse. You can't find it because it's not there. Go on. Over to you.
So the people at the time, like the Jews, the Israelites, they corrupted the Injil. So because of that, the Injil is obviously no longer valid. Now you believe in the Bible, and the Bible is corrupted. So they're not the same book. That's my response.
Right. Did anyone hear a single verse of the Quran that said the Injil was corrupted?
Yeah, but you're not going to find
not
that verse.
One.
But Muslim scholars interpret it.
No.
Come to that conclusion.
Show me exactly. Did you all hear that? He gave the game away. Muslim scholars interpret it, and they interpret it that way. There's no actual verse in the Quran that says that the Injil is corrupted. But let me give him another verse of the Quran where the Quran has been corrupted. In Surah 3, Ayah 146, the Hafs version of the Quran uses the word qatala, which means fought. which renders the verse, and how many prophets has fought with whom were many worshippers of the Lord, so they did not become weak-hearted on account of what befell them in Allah's way, nor did they weaken, nor did they abase themselves, and Allah loves the patient. But the Susi version of the Quran, not the Wash, I correct myself from earlier, the Susi version of the Quran uses the Arabic word kutila. Kutila means were killed, which would render the verse this way, and how many a prophet with him were killed, and then the rest of the verse is the same. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a big difference, I'm sure you'll agree, between fighting for someone and dying for someone. Not everybody who fights dies, and not everybody who dies fights. And I would rather be someone who fights rather than dies for my belief, because there's a chance that I might still be alive. But the Quran contradicts itself because of a textual variant inside the Quran. One says fought, one says died. They are not the same. So which is it? Did they fight or did they die? Which Quran is correct?
Okay. I'll do my research and come back. I don't know.
But but Omar, listen to yourself. Okay. You're still saying that because one verse said 22 and one verse said 42, that proves the Bible is corrupt. But when I show you the same thing in your Quran, your answer is, I need to go and do more research. Why did it not come to your mind to think that I need to do more research about the Bible? Why did it not come to your mind to think that I need to do more research about Christianity? Maybe the Christians don't believe the same as me. It did not come to your mind because you were repeating a script that you heard in your masjid, rather than thinking for yourself as an intelligent human being. So improve your game, think like an intelligent human being, don't repeat things parrot fashion, and don't come to me with parrot arguments, because I've heard them all before. Are we done? All right. You have a good day, Omar. You enjoy that book.
Yeah, what's the channel?
Yeah, I'll give you a card, bro.
You were saying there's like 50k people on the live stream or something. I was like, what the hell?
There you go.
Thank you so much.
Look after yourself, Omar. Take care.